Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show! Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting round of and new MMA show. I'm your host, Michael Hansen, and folks, we are starting back up at the letter A, and I don't have a word yet, so I do all kinds of awesome things with microphones because I'm a ring announcer, and I'm joined this week by my two friends who bring MMA punditry to new heights. Introducing first from New York, Mark Priaulx. Say hi, buddy.
Hi, buddy. What's up, boys? I am melting over here because the air in my office is not working. So I might have to leave this screen multiple times to get a water refill as I sweat buckets during this show. I also rearranged my office this week and moved a lot of plugs around and things of that nature. And when I went to move my computer over here, because it's usually not in this spot, to set up for this show, I realized the only way to plug it in was to put the cord through my legs. So I'm wildly uncomfortable. And we're just going to get through this and figure it out for next week.
Put my UFC glove there. All right, introducing from Florida, the Sunshine State. He is the Nicaraguan nightmare, La Pesadilla de Nicaraguense, Omar Artola. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, guys?
I need more Spanish, bro.
It's not bad. It's not bad. Getting ready this weekend for our little trip to Miami, me and the wife. And we just got back from Disney and bought a whole bunch of Disney shit. I officially got my first piece of Disney art that was like commissioned by Disney, not just like some shit you find online.
Oh, wow.
So I'm very, very excited for that. I love the art that you find at those places. So I'll take a picture and I'll show you guys.
Nice.
Cool, man. Cool. Well, guys, in about 8-9 days, I'm going to be in Milwaukee announcing my first event for Anthony Pettis Fighting Championship, formerly named Showtime Fighting Championship. Could not be more excited. And then in November, the show will be brought to Las Vegas, Nevada. So definitely, that was announced, I think, just yesterday. Yes, and definitely a bucket list thing for me, man. So exciting here in the Hansen household.
Hell yeah.
So, folks, we have...
Also, can I say real quick, Mike? I don't know if you planned on this already, but we have a shout-out that we have to make here.
Yes.
Were you going to do it?
No, I was gonna, but
Oh, so I'll leave it for you.
I don't know when we were gonna do it. Let's do it now.
So we need to shout out our boy, Rob Glenn, told us that his cousin is a regular listener to our show without even knowing that Rob knew us. So we want to shout him out real quick. His name is, I don't know how to say his last name, unfortunately. Rob just typed it to us. It looks like Nickpon, but Mikey Nickpon. He goes to Vatech. So shout out to him. Thank you for listening. Tell some more people. Leave us a comment or something, man. We'll get with you in the comments. But thank you for listening.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Mikey.
Yeah, word up.
Regular listener. How cool is that?
It's pretty dope.
Gives us a sense of purpose, guys.
Like, I'm totally content speaking into the ether, but it is nice knowing that people still listen every now and again.
Yeah, Omar, nice. Did we even tell you this? We didn't tell you this, right?
No, I didn't know what you guys were talking about.
One of our best friends, Rob, was with his cousin, who apparently is like 20 years old and he follows MMA. So Rob's like, "Oh, dude, my friends do a podcast. You should listen to it." And he was like, "Oh, I listened to some already. Like, I'll check it out. What's it called? I'll like add it to the list." And Rob tells him, and he's like, "You're kidding me. I listen to them every week. I love them." So how small world is that?
That's awesome.
Pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff to hear. Yeah, man. Shout out to Mikey. All right. Let's get into this episode, folks. We're going to start with our first segment, as we always do, on the marquee. We're going to dive in to UFC 277, Pena versus Nunes 2 from this past weekend. We're going to throw a bunch of the fights into our lightning round. Then we're going to find out who rose and who fell in our very own rankings system, the Priaulx Rankings, made by Mark. We're going to dive into the headlines and find out what's new with the segments inside the MMA Sphere with Omar Artola. Then we're going to look ahead to this coming weekend with some PFL action, as well as, of course, some UFC and UFC Fight Night, Santos versus Hill. And then maybe we'll end with a little bit of trivia. Sounds good? All right. Before we get into anything fight-related, gentlemen, if you're listening to this or watching this right now, thank you so much. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. If you like what you're seeing and listening to, drop us a comment. My favorite form of engagement with our audience. Mikey, I want you to drop a comment right now. And if you want audio only, of course, find us wherever you get your podcasts. And find us on social media. Our handle is @andnew_MMA show. Again, it's @andnew_MMA show in all the social places. All right. With that being said, this week, the name on the marquee has got to be Amanda Nunes, who this past weekend at UFC 277, Pena versus Nunes 2, in front of 19,000 strong at the American Airlines Arena in Dallas, Texas, defeated Juliana, the Venezuelan vixen Pena, by unanimous decision, pretty much shutting her out on the scorecards, wrenching her title back from Pena, and she is now the champ once again. Guys, the scores read 50-45, 50-44, and 50-43, so it was a shutout. Mark, let me start with you. What was your assessment of this performance, this comeback performance by Nunes regaining the bantamweight title?
Well, I did not believe that Juliana Pena was the same level of mixed martial artist as Amanda Nunes. It just didn't feel like it made logical sense, and we've received confirmation that it does not. Nunes is the clearly better fighter. Now, no one will ever be able to take away what Juliana Pena did in their first fight. She will carry that with her forever. She'll always be a champion. But I think we can safely say now that a lot of things played into that fight and ended up being a large factor. I think Amanda was coming off COVID. I think it made her cardio kind of suspect. Then she hurt her knee, couldn't train cardio even more so. And I think what we saw, I kind of already thought this, but I'm saying now I feel safer saying all this, is that she went into that first fight in what was visibly worse shape. You could tell what better shape she was in as soon as she walked into the octagon in this fight, and said, I got to try to get this girl out of here quick because I know my body might not hold up late because I haven't really been able to train like I want to train. And it just so happened that night she was in there with the one girl who really matches up in a way where she cannot get her out of there quick. Pena, just is a dog. And despite getting drubbed in this rematch, Pena showed that same exact quality again here. The girl is never going to quit. And on the first night, Nunes went out, emptied the gas tank trying to finish her, and she didn't. And Nunes' body was just like, unfortunately, that's all we've got here. And that's how upsets happen. So I will always give props to Pena. She still had to go in there and do it, circumstances aside. She went in there and did it. So, she'll always have her credit for that. But for this fight, Amanda got to train normally. She looked, like I said, way better physically. As soon as she got into the cage, I was like, oh, wow, big difference. And I think because of all that, this fight looked how we thought the first fight was going to look. Amanda Nunes is just better than Juliana Pena. And like I said, Pena's more than tough. I feel like we need a different word that means more than tough to describe what Pena is. She never even considered for a second getting out of that fight. Got dropped a million times. She's getting whooped on the ground. I mean, of course, she's trying to throw up her subs and things like that, but then every now and then an elbow is just smashing through her face, and fought to the end. So she made that an entertaining fight just because she would not go away. But obviously, big statement for Amanda Nunes, and she reclaims the throne here.
Omar, Pena was nicked up bad at the end of the fight. She had to get stitches. Nunes, too, she had her lumps as well. Her face did not look great, but the scorecards told a different story. It was a no-hitter. It was a shutout. What was your assessment of of Nunes the Great getting back her title?
It was exactly the performance she needed. There's a couple things that we definitely need to point out, especially for the sake of clarity and fairness. Amanda Nunes' face, her right side of her face, was a balloon by the end of that fight. It should be noted.
That will always make me laugh.
I know. That's why I say it though. It's if you know, you know. But that was caused by clashes of heads. So I just don't want the image of Amanda's right side of her face to be attributed with a barrage of punches or solid strikes or some sort of overwhelming something that caused that damage. It was a clash of heads, a solid clash of heads, and it caused her to almost swell up immediately. Whereas Juliana's face was meticulously beat on for 5 rounds. There was one point, I think, right after the fight, they thought she was going to need plastic surgery because part of her forehead was like missing, like a little chip of her forehead was missing. Turns out that wasn't the case, which is great because what? And so she got she got stitches, a few stitches in the middle of her forehead, and she's got a gash on her eye. She's pretty lumped up and pretty messed up in that fight. And I think the one thing, and this is how I've always viewed Juliana's career, a lot like Misha's career, where not always the most technically sound in all areas, but God damn it, that woman is going to be the toughest one there every time. And unless you're on your P's and Q's for every minute of that fight, you're bound to lose. It's, to be honest, it's kind of like Nate Diaz too, and the Diaz brothers. You know what I mean? Like, we all joke about it. You know, they have their thing and their personalities. At the end of the day, when you're locked in the cage with them, if you're not taking them seriously, if you decide to play games with them, they are bound to knock somebody out or choke somebody out. And Pena's got that toughness, man, that grit where she's not going to be denied. And it does take a champion like Amanda to have to be 100% in that fight at all times, aware, ready to go, conscious of what is happening in the moment for her to beat somebody like Pena, because Pena is one to snatch something up real quick. And we've seen it in the last fight. We've seen it in her other previous fights. She is a dog, man. And just because Amanda Nunes beat the living shit out of her does not mean that that Juliana Pena cannot beat the living shit out of half of that division, if not more. So It was a fantastic fight from both of these women. A+ caliber all the way across. But Amanda Nunes is just a different level. That's just what it is.
There was that one moment. I mean, she threw up a dozen different submissions, and she was going for an armbar the whole time. There was that one armbar where it really looked like, holy shit, she did it again. Yeah, when
there
she
were
was
a
really
couple
wrenching
of them,
on it,
man.
and she was like screaming. She was like, ah.
Yeah, there was at least
my
two. There's at least two that I remember that the elbow was underneath her hips, and it was in a bad spot. And I was like, damn, does she really have this lock? And but to Amanda's credit, like I said, she was conscious. She was in the moment. She was never lost like she looked like in the first fight where she just didn't know what was going on. She was exactly how she needed to be in order to beat somebody as on top of things as Pena is all the time.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was Nunes' fight pretty much from go.
Yeah.
I mean, as the fighter who also holds the women's featherweight title, she's visibly bigger. She's clearly stronger. She clearly has a massive edge in power and striking power. I mean, I would even say she seemed like she had a slight edge in hand speed over Pena.
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, it was like unfair. It wasn't fair. It's like if the real Amanda Nunes shows up, there's just no chance. No chance.
I don't know. She caught Pena clean so many times and dropped her. I don't know how none of those times Pena was, like, hurt for even more than a second. Like, every time she went down, I was like, oh, this is the time. And every time Pena would just look right back up, like, put her feet up, like, ready to defend. I don't know how none of those were hurting her. She was getting hit so damn clean.
Yeah.
Do you think there was a little element of like a
So they were all check right hooks. Every single one of them were all check right hooks.
She couldn't figure out the stance. She kept walking
like a piston. Like a fucking piston.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Do you think, Mark, there was an element of like a Charles Oliveira, kind of like a semi-defensive tactic of going down?
Someone said that. I didn't see that. Because with Charles, you see him get hit and almost like make a choice. Like there's time in between. Yes. Pena was getting put down.
Yeah. Pena's legs told her to sit the fuck down, whereas Charles tells his legs we're going down. It's a little there's a difference of who's controlling who there.
Okay. Let's talk about where these ladies go from here. Mark, let me start with you, and let's start with the fighter who lost the title, Juliana Pena, at women's bantamweight. Who do you think she should fight next?
So my answer is going to involve both fighters, which obviously tells you what my answer is, but I'll tell you why. I know this is not what most people seem to be saying. I know there's been a lot of talk of doing Nunes and Shevchenko, which I've always wanted and loved, and I definitely want that fight to happen for a third time. But I just don't think that's the way to go right now, because I don't think people are as invested in how enormous Nunes and Shevchenko is right now as they could be, simply because we just saw Amanda lose. She feels a little bit vulnerable still. It was only one fight ago. We just saw Valentina have a close fight that some people who are wrong thought was controversial. I think it would enhance that fight a lot to move it to, say, like the spring. Not move it, to wait until the spring. Get us farther away from either of them looking vulnerable at all. Let each of them maybe get one more great win where they look fantastic. And then I think just off of that, the buzz grows a lot more compared to where the buzz is right now. And if that's the case, you have an easy matchup for Valentina, which is she'll defend against the winner of Manon Fior and Katlyn Chookagian. And I think the matchup for Nunes is to just do the Pena trilogy. I don't think there's any other 135er who's close to deserving a title shot. I guess Ketlen Vieira is the closest that we have, but I think she should be matched with Raquel Pennington. I don't think she's done enough yet. And I think the fans are still invested in the Nunes-Pena story right now, especially just because Pena refused to die in that fight, even though she looked like she was the inferior fighter. And I think that just to close out this trilogy and then go to Shevchenko gives you two more big Amanda Nunes fights when you don't know how many more big fights she has left that she's going to give you before she decides to walk away. And I just think that if she dominates Pena again or even finishes her, that she really gets heated up. And that if Shevchenko looks healthy again and smokes one of Fior or Chookagian, same thing for her, and that fight ends up a lot bigger than it feels at this particular moment.
Omar, do you have any different take on who Pena and Nunes should fight?
I genuinely don't want to see that fight right now. There just doesn't seem like putting on that fight again for what? What do you think is going to change that fight? The only reason this second fight sold as well as the first fight did is because of how much the first fight was a quote-unquote fluke. Whether you want to argue that or not, but people were so interested to see, could Juliana really do this again? Do you really want to see whether Amanda could beat the shit out of this girl again or not? I mean, this is exactly what we thought was going to happen.
Pena deserves it.
But does she,
You don't feel
though?
like Pena deserves it? It's 1-1.
No, I think if anything, Pena got exactly what should have happened, which was the rematch with Amanda. Amanda was the one who deserved the rematch. The deserving part was in Amanda's favor, not Juliana's.
How about I tell you that they've fought 2 fights, and the only person who got a finish was Juliana Pena.
Whoa.
I mean, there's an argument there, but I don't want to see it right now. The gap in how that fight went though is so crazy. It's so crazy. There's not even an argument to say that it was competitive after a certain point, right? It's like to watch it again. What are we going to see different? Who's proven that they changed something up to make it different? And I think they both need, or at least Juliana needs one more fight where she's dominant to prove that she still deserves to be there. Because after that last fight, it just doesn't make sense to give her another run at the title. It just seems ludicrous to me.
I wouldn't if there was another option, which leads me to what are you doing then?
I mean, I give it to Ketlen Vieira. I get your point. I don't necessarily disagree. We've seen dumber title fights having been made, but the reality is Nunes is making it difficult because she keeps beating the shit out of everybody. It's kind of the same thing with Valentina.
But so you're also not going to Shevchenko yet. You're waiting on that too?
I am waiting on that too. Yes.
All right. Interesting.
Definitely a fight I want to see before either one of them retire, though. They can't leave the sport without getting one more in before they're done.
Agree.
All right, here's the easy comparison. Looking back in MMA history, Cain Velasquez versus Junior Dos Santos. Their first meeting. Now, JDS was not the underdog I think that Pena was in this matchup. But JDS knocks out Cain Velasquez in like a minute. They come back. Velasquez dominates him to a 5-round decision, which has just happened in this matchup.
Yep.
And in their third matchup, Kane dominates JDS again to a TKO in the 5th round. And he, murders him. He,
100%.
changes his face.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
he changed his face in both of them. But here's the difference. Here's my point, though. After the second Cain Velasquez fight, where Cain Velasquez rearranged him the first time, he went out and spinning back kicked Mark Hunt in the goddamn face. And then got a title shot again. So the point is he didn't get rearranged by Cain Velasquez after knocking Cain Velasquez out the first time and then immediately get another title shot to then get rearranged the third time. He had to go out, prove he's still at the top, knocked out Mark Hunt in vicious fashion, and then got another title shot. Totally fine with that. Juliana goes out, armbar somebody, choke somebody out, knock somebody out, TKO somebody. Yeah, right. Throw her ass back in there with Nunes and let's see what we got.
I fully agree, except it's because there were other people in the heavyweight division that were relevant. Whereas in this case, I don't feel like anyone is.
You think that Ketlin is not adequate?
Who cares about Amanda Nunes fighting Ketlin Vieira? Who cares?
Yeah, it's well said. Well said. Okay. Let's agree to disagree. I love it when we disagree. Okay.
It happens, I feel, so rarely on here, but when it does, we get some, some juicy.
I probably would have been even more vocal, but I'm trying to update the betting odds for the previews later because I forgot to write them down. So I'm multitasking.
Okay, here we go. Cool. Are you guys ready to move on? Let's move on.
Let's move on.
All right, in the co-main event of UFC 277, in the flyweight division, we had it was the interim men's flyweight title between Brandon Moreno and Kai Kara France. John Anik always taps that R in Kara.
Yeah.
Kai Kara France. And Brandon Moreno regains the flyweight title, this time the interim, by TKOing Kai Kara France with a vicious, vicious body kick followed up by punches. The official time coming in 4 minutes, 34 seconds of round number 3. Omar, let me throw it over to you first this time. What was your assessment of this awesome flyweight fight and even awesomer finish by Brandon Moreno, the baby sass?
It's my fucking boy, guys. That's my fucking boy. I love Brandon Moreno. I will continue to love Brandon Moreno. It was a good fight, man. Even if you take away the finish itself, I thought it was a very, very solid fight. That body kick at the very end, man, that's the shit that ruins ribs right there. That's the shit of nightmares. I'm pretty sure one of Kara France's ribs was not in the right spot by the end of that fight. It looked like there was some poking out of his skin in the wrong places. I hope that wasn't the case, but messed up ribs are terrible for the longevity. Not to mention breathing for the next few months is terrible. It was a fantastic performance from Moreno, though. He's so good at being himself that he has such a style that's not very teachable. He's very comfortable doing his thing, fighting his fight, doing what he needs to do to be effective. And even though he may not be as visually flashy or as visually technically sound, like in a proper stance or having his hands properly in one place or whatever it is, the way he fights works for him so well that it's just I love watching it. It's just so much fun to watch.
Yeah, man. He's a virtuoso. Mark, what was your assessment of this awesome flyweight title fight?
I very much agree with that, what you just said about Moreno. Sometimes I find myself watching him, and I almost, because I'm generally rooting for him when I'm watching him, and there are times where I'm like, man, I feel like he needs to figure out what he wants to do right now. Sometimes he feels like a little bit like he doesn't quite know what he's doing in there, because he's a little bit all over the place. He's not, I don't know how to describe it. He's not the most refined fighter you ever saw. He just is scrapping. And I don't want to say, obviously he's got phenomenal technique. I'm not trying to say that, but he's a unique fighter to watch for sure. But yeah, this was a great fight while it lasted. I wanted to be able to rewatch it before this. I didn't have time. But it felt like it was real close to that point.
It was,
I was torn on round 1, I believe it was, and then I thought Moreno took 2, and then I was on my way to scoring 3 for Kai. So it was a battle to then. First off, I just want to say I completely missed that Brandon Moreno had linked up with James Krause. I love James Krause as a coach, and I would have picked Moreno with even more confidence than I did pick him with if I had seen that. I think Krause is a fantastic coach. But yeah, it was super competitive. These guys obviously match up really close. We've seen it now through 2 fights, how well they match up with each other. Every round they've had is close up until the point of that finish. But on this night, it was Brandon Moreno's night. Just a perfectly placed kick to the body. It was right when it seemed like Kai was starting to figure him out, frustrate him a little bit. Even the commentary was like, man, Kai's kind of taking over this round a bit. And then next thing you know, Moreno pressures him. Boom. Body kick. Couldn't be more perfect. Kai's body just turns off. He wanted to eat it. There was nothing he could do to eat it, and he just gets blasted out of there. So, monster win. Then they go ahead and bring Figueiredo into the cage for one of the most awkward interviews I've ever seen. Like, first of all, it kind of just felt like they shitted on Brandon's moment a little bit, unfortunately. Like, it was almost like, yeah, you won. Okay, let's bring Figueiredo in here. Like, there was no, like, celebration of it. And then, like, it seemed like Moreno didn't know he was going to walk up to him. Then he decided to be nice about it. Figueiredo was all ready to be a tough guy, but then Moreno's being so nice, he decides to be nice too, because it was such a weird friggin' scenario. But obviously, big night from Moreno, and now he will get the chance to put the real gold around his waist once again.
Yeah, this is a beef that keeps like going back and forth between mad respect and like really like they have a problem with each other.
It's one of
I didn't know.
Though, Brandon Moreno doesn't have a problem with Deiveson Figueiredo. He has never had a problem with Deiveson Figueiredo. Brandon Moreno has had problems and will continue and probably always have problems with Eric Albacin or wherever that fucking kid's name is that trains with Henry Cejudo.
He comes in the friggin' cage with him.
Yeah, because he's the fucking King Chooch, this guy. He's like, he taught Henry Cejudo how to be the king of cringe. That man is the godfather of. I can only imagine, Mike. Have you seen him? That man looks like he gets paid to teach people how to be cringe. He has one of those little outlets where the people come and sit down with their little notebooks. What can I do to be cringe?
But dude, every time these two guys fight,
he's been associated with a lot of good fighters, though. So he does.
That's true. That's true. But it seems like whatever the beef is between Moreno and him has escalated to that camp, and in turn Figueiredo. Because Figueiredo, every time Figueiredo talks about Brandon Moreno having beef with him, it's always because of some disrespect to Eric or to the team or to whatever, and the disloyalty or whatever. And Brandon's like, man, fuck you and your team. I did what I had to do for my career. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, James Krause.
Even when Moreno talks shit, though, he talks shit like such a nice guy. He's like, I don't like that guy. Fuck that guy.
You're so right though about how it changes, because even post fight, like at the presser, they were talking to Figueiredo, and he was like, "Yeah, I wasn't expecting him to be so nice, but then he was being so sweet in there, so I figured I should be too. But now I'm gonna kill him." And it's like they just like it's like on a dime.
All right,
I love this.
Let's talk about. Oh yeah, I could watch Deiveson Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno fight 100 times.
Yeah, agreed.
They could fight a 100-round fight, and I will watch all of it. Let's talk about where Brandon Moreno, and especially where Kai Kara-France goes from here. Let's talk about Kai, because I feel like Moreno's fate is now sealed, having the interim championship, of course. Omar, give me a name towards the top, of course, of the men's flyweight division of who you would match Kai Kara-France up with next.
So it's a two-parter for me. At this point, I think Brandon Moreno needs to go. We need to unify the belt, right? We got an interim, we got undisputed, which is disputed now. We need to figure that out. So that needs to happen. I feel like that's a given at this point. As a result, and we're about to get there, with Pantoja's recent performance of absolutely running through this human being, I would think Kai Kara-France and Pantoja need to happen ASAP at this point, and then whoever wins that fight would fight for the belts. I feel like that would work out at this point.
I love that. I mean, Pantoja's a guy that Kara-France has not fought yet in flyweight, so I think that would be a tremendous matchup at this point. Mark, what do you think?
So I agree. I feel like that is kind of the obvious play here, and it's almost what I think is likely to happen. But I kind of wish Pantoja would just wait for the title shot. Like, he was supposed to already have a shot. He got hurt. He comes back. Again, like Omar said, we're going to get to it. He steamrolls Alex Perez like he didn't even exist. And I kind of just want to, like, I don't want the guy to lose out on a title shot again. Like, I kind of just want to say he should be the backup for Moreno Figueiredo 4. If anything happens to either one of them, he's in the fight. If not, he waits his turn and he gets the winner. And Kai goes somewhere else. We know that Askar Askarov and Brandon Royval are already fighting each other, which are kind of like the other two top guys in that division. Yeah. I guess if Royval won that fight, you could say, like, all right, we're going to give Kai a shot to avenge his loss because he does have a loss to Royval. If Askarov won that fight, it would feel really weird to ask Kai to fight him again already. He just beat him.
Yeah.
So it's a little messy. I even thought about just throw Kai in there with my boy Manel Kopp and shoot Kopp up the ranks because of how fucking fun that fight would be. Jesus but Christ. I don't know. It's a little hard to match up Kai unless you're putting him with Pantoja. And personally, I just wish Pantoja would be told he's getting the next title shot and wait for it.
I can't necessarily hate on that take, especially seeing as how I feel like Pantoja should have had a title shot like 10 years ago or something. It feels like that man is the Tony Ferguson of this division where we keep missing the title shot. It just seems wild.
Agreed.
Okay, let's move on. In the heavyweight division, Sergei Pavlovich squashes Derrick Lewis in a quick stoppage. Buckle in, folks. We are about to talk about refereeing. The official time came at 55 seconds into round number 1. The referee was a ref that I have always liked, in Dan Murgliata. Pavlovich was dinging Derrick Lewis a number of times. Derrick Lewis fell onto his head. Big Dan stepped in right away, and as he was stepping in, Derrick Lewis was springing back up to his feet, probably to eat some more shots from the big Russian. Let's be real, Omar. I see you shaking your head. Let me start this time with Mark, though. Mark, what was your assessment of the fight for the minute that it was going on and of the stoppage, of course?
Yeah, this one sucked. I mean, who knows, like you said, if the result would have changed, and maybe it wouldn't have. But I really did not like this stoppage. I get it that Derrick Lewis fell ugly, but you got to wait like at least one Mississippi from when a guy falls to the mat to see what happens. Like, the man popped up, his face contacted the mat, and he was already coming to his feet. Like, it was legit immediately that he popped up, and the fight was already being waved. So it was too quick of a trigger by Big Dan, unfortunately. I do like him also. You got to wait a second and see what a fighter looks like when he hits the mat. We've seen guys pop up before. With that said, Lewis was getting hit like we thought he would. He wasn't reacting well to it like we thought he wouldn't. It wasn't looking great. So the man who was looking better in there was certainly Sergei Pavlovich. But Derrick Lewis is Derrick Lewis, and for all we know, he stands up, and Pavlovich tries to rush him, and kind of one glances, and then Derrick Lewis throws one, and Pavlovich goes to sleep. Like, it's Derrick Lewis, so who knows? You never know in a Derrick Lewis fight, and it stinks that we got robbed of a definitive answer to who was better in there.
Okay, Omar, as the one on this show who has voiced refereeing ambitions, lay it on us. What was your take of Murgliata's stoppage?
Fucking boo, Dan Murgliata, boo. Jesus Christ. I mean, it's frustrating. It's frustrating to watch. It's frustrating knowing that first of all, quick sidebar. If you haven't watched the week 2 of this Dana White Contender Series, for those of you listening, highly recommend it. That was basically a prelim to any card ever this year. Those were fantastic fights. But my point in saying that is there was better refereeing in those fights than there was in that fight. These kids in the Contender Series got knocked around left and right, dropped to all kinds of hell. All kinds of weird things were going on. Referees let it play out. They were looking at it properly. They were letting the fight go as it was as necessary, calling the fights when they needed to be called. But I think me and Mark were talking about it on Saturday. It's like with heavyweights, people are worried that, when a heavyweight gets knocked down, like that's it. You know what I mean? It's like watching a building tumble, and like, that's when you call it. And that's not really the case, man. Like we can't treat these guys significantly different from how we call other fights when it comes to when the fights need to be stopped. The criteria should be the same. You still have to see if these guys are responding, defending properly. Derrick Lewis going down like that doesn't mean he was knocked out. And I think that was fairly obvious after it all, kind of played out the way that it did. You know what I mean? Most of the time when something like that happens and people go down in that position, usually a guy gets like 2, 3, 4 more shots in there before the referee's like, okay, you're done, right? We've seen even Herb Dean, even as much shit as I talk about in the past, yell at a guy, you got to protect yourself. You got to protect yourself. I'm going to call the fight. Giving these guys verbal warnings so they have every opportunity to do what they need to do if they can. These fights, especially this Derrick Lewis Pavlovich, this is a huge fight. You just took something away from Derrick Lewis's career at this point in time, potentially in money. You know what I mean? Who knows if he has that win bonus fucking structure that some of them have? All because, you fucked up? Sorry I did it. My bad. It just seems so crazy to me, man. I don't like it. I hate bad stoppages like this, especially when they have such high stakes like this. Super disappointing, especially from somebody who's been around the game for a long time. But
though, that the referees are not supposed to have the stakes of the fight in mind at all. Their number one priority is the health of the fighter.
Yeah, but to what extent though? I mean, what are you there for? Because at the end of the day, I understand. I'm not gonna Yamasaki some guy because it's a title fight, right? Like the guy's not gonna. There is a limit, but at the same time, you can't. If it's a title fight over some amateur fight, yeah, I'm gonna treat it differently. One, I think, deserves to be treated differently than the other. One is potentially going to, make this guy a living, this career, a true career, whereas another one, may be one just for shits and giggles, maybe one for an up-and-comer who needs to learn certain things. I mean, Mike, you've seen a lot of these amateur fights. Some of these guys get wrecked in some of those fights, and then there are times when they get hit solid once, and the referee's like, okay, we're good here. If we're talking about pro fights... Right, but we're talking about when we get to pro fights, things change. And I think the stakes of the fights, to a certain extent, should play a factor. You know what I mean? If this is, somebody's debuting fight over a title fight, you can't tell me that a referee is going to treat them 100% the same. Criteria should be the same. Yeah. Where they, call the fight and all these kind of things are the same. But at the same time, you might give the guy an extra shot or two, right? An extra couple shots, an extra 3 or 4 shots over the debuting guy, right? The debuting guy is probably going to get another shot. Another title shot could very well be far and few between. So I do think there's a little bit of things to take into consideration here and there. But I do agree with the point that you shouldn't just be letting shit go because it's a title fight or because the stakes are that high. It shouldn't be to that extent, but it does need to be taken into some consideration.
Yeah, I do agree that overall, I think it felt like a late stoppage. I would have wanted
early
Miragliotta to wait.
Early stoppage.
I guess it sounds fucked up to say, but for Miragliotta to wait and let Derrick Lewis take 1 or 2 more punches, even if he was unconscious, just to know that he was unconscious.
I don't even mean that he had to take more. I mean that you got to look at the guy for a second after he hits the ground. And yeah, maybe when you're looking at him, he's going to eat 1 more. But he didn't even assess him on the ground. He just saw him crumple, and he was like, oh, that's it. Like, if a flyweight falls like that, no one is stopping the fight without seeing what happens on the ground.
If you watch it, too, Lewis was on his forearms and on his knees. The fight before, Lewis was on his face. Like, Lewis was out. No one was arguing that one. Lewis was on his forearms and his knees, which means his body was still working. He wasn't out. It was too quick. That's the reality. It was too quick. Dan Miragliotta just got too excited in the moment. There was a lot of shit going down. I can understand the moment.
And part of it is that these are big boys. So I think.
But that's what I mean.
Think it has to be said that Miragliotta has to be think that he's saving Derrick Lewis from another blow that could be unnecessary of a 260-pound man raining an elbow down on Derrick Lewis's unconscious face potentially, and he jumped in.
I think you got to make yourself not treated different just because they're big boys.
Oh, okay.
Because they can take more because they're big boys.
I guess so, yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Again, I don't think we should have left them. And I don't think Mark's saying this either. But I don't think we should have left them down there for 7, 8, 9, 10 unanswered punches.
No, of course
Nothing
not.
crazy, right?
If
like you
he
said,
laid on his face, it's over. If he eats one
Right.
more big one, it's over. But he didn't do either of those
if he's
things.
getting up, yeah.
His limbs didn't even look like they really went limp. It just looked like Derrick Lewis just went down, almost like a Charles Oliveira, but on his knees, if you will.
Tough job, man. Tough job. Ref's got a tough job, man. Okay, let's move on. We want to talk about matching these guys up, right? Let's talk about the winner, Sergei Pavlovich. Mark, give me a name. Where would you want Pavlovich to go next at heavyweight? Climbing up the ranks. He's got a big name on his record in Derrick Lewis.
This is another one where I'm going to actually just do both guys together because I'm going to lead with that I do not hate the idea of running this back. I really don't. Pavlovich's manager apparently said they were open to it. It might be Ali. Is that his manager? I forget who said it.
Is it? I have no idea.
I don't know if it is. It was someone that I knew, though. And I was like, huh. But so they said they were open to running it back if the UFC wanted it. I do not hate it just because heavyweight is so crowded right now at the top.
Yeah.
Like you have Stipe not fighting, Bones, who knows, and Ngannou's hurt. Gon's fighting Tuivasa. Whoever wins is probably going to fight Blades. Like, there's not really room for Pavlovich to go somewhere necessarily. So I don't hate it. If they don't do it, I think you probably put Pavlovich in with Volkov and you put Lewis in with Rosenstrike. Those were actually the two suggestions I made for each of them before they got matched with each other, Lewis and Pavlovich, and I think they still work right now if you're not going to put them in there again.
I didn't remember that.
It's literally everyone in the top 10. There's no other options for the most part. Aspinall is broken, and I think Augusto Sakai is already matched up for this weekend with Sergei Spivac. So there's literally no one else. The heavyweight division is a traffic jam right now.
All right, let's move on. Hopping right back into the flyweight division, Alexandre Pantoja defeats Alex Perez by submission via neck crank. Official time, 1 minute, 31 seconds of round number 1. Omar, let me start with you. What was your assessment of Pantoja styling on Perez, getting him out there early in the first?
So I took away two things from this fight. Pantoja's out of his fucking mind for walking forward the way that he did. Okay? He basically told this dude, hey, if you want to knock me out, now's your best chance because I'm coming forward and you ain't going to do anything else to stop me. And Pantoja's wild for that because there was ample opportunity to get his chin tagged real good. And he got tagged a few times while he was coming in. But it was wild. Ate those shots, came right in, got close, and like backpacked this kid and was able to get him on the ground, dragged him right onto the fence. And the neck crank, the neck cranks are disgusting. I would wholeheartedly wish to get rear naked choked. I will give you my chin before I fucking get neck cranked. Okay? Yeah. Like that. Oh yeah, I'll give you my neck before I let you. Yeah, because it looks like he's gonna break his jaw. Every neck crank I've ever seen looks like a jaw is about to get snapped straight in half. And I think the worst one we may have ever seen, at least in my recollection, is the Ronda Rousey Liz Carmouche fight, where Liz had that rear naked choke at one point, and Rousey's whole mouth was like indented inside.
She got out of it.
Liz actually came out with an indent of Rousey's teeth in her arm. Wild shit. Regardless, Pantoja, animal from beginning to end. He really, really needed a performance like that to solidify that you can't go with anybody else for a title shot at this point. It's got to be me. I wish the landscape was a little bit clearer than it is right now for him because he should be getting a title shot right away after a performance like that. But things are just so crazy in that division, he might not get one as soon as he should. But fantastic performance from him.
Mark?
You think he had a point to prove in that fight? I mean, holy hell. As we said earlier, the man was supposed to get a title shot against Moreno before they made Moreno figure 3. He gets hurt. He loses the opportunity, and I don't think that sat with him very well. because that man came out on fire. He absolutely bullied Alex Perez in every sense of the word, in every phase of the fight. And Alex Perez is a skilled fighter, and Pantoja made it look like he had no business even being in a cage with him. I thought he was going to rip his head off on that neck crank. Like, it was nasty. Just a nasty statement from Alexandre Pantoja.
Great use of the post-fight interview as well. Most people don't take advantage of it. He definitely did.
Remind me of what he did?
He didn't answer any of Bisping's questions and just started yelling into the mic and got really hyped up. It was fantastic.
Yep. Saying he should get the shot and everything.
Yep.
So, Mark, you've already said earlier in this episode that you think Pantoja should just wait at this point for another crack at Davison Figueiredo with the title, or whoever wins between Figueiredo and Moreno, if they do indeed unify the belts. Omar, what do you think?
Yeah, the fan in me, it's not illogical. It's not even a bad decision, but the fan in me wants to see Pantoja versus Kai Kara-France. I just want it. That's just where
they haven't fought yet. It would be a great fight. And for those who might not realize, I just mentioned, yes, Pantoja and Figueiredo have already matched up. They fought at UFC 240 back in mid-2019 on the prelims. And Figueiredo won in a unanimous decision, 30-27 on all of the scorecards. But that was a long time ago, guys. And both guys are very different fighters. Pantoja at flyweight is maybe just as scary as Figgy at this point at 125 pounds, man.
It's funny because he's fought all these guys. He fought Figueiredo, and he lost a decision. He fought Moreno in the UFC and won a decision, and he beat Moreno on tough. And he beat Kai on tough. Like, he's already been in a cage with all these guys at different points in their careers.
Do you want to match up Perez, or do you just want to move on?
I got one for Perez. I think him and David Dvorak could be a fun fight, potentially, between two top 10 guys who are coming off losses. I actually think that could be a war.
Nice. Omar, you got a name at flyweight where you would want to see Perez go from here?
He's
a talented guy. Pantoja made him look bad, but he's a talented guy.
He is. He's a very good fighter. Does anybody know what's going on with Cody Garbrandt? Whether he's sticking around 125, he's going 125?
Yeah, he's fighting at bantamweight.
He's going back to bantamweight?
It was supposed to be who? It was supposed to be Ronnie Yaya, I think, and then Yaya got hurt.
Yeah.
So actually, I don't know if they've rebooked it. He might be fightless, but I think it was supposed to be Cody and Yaya.
Yeah, it looks like he's neck injury, currently unknown if there's going to be a replay. Oh, no. July 9th. That was already supposed to happen, so no.
So I guess he is fightless.
So he went back up then. But he did go back up. I don't think he's going to go back down then if he went back up.
Yeah.
That would have been an interesting fight. But why don't we give the boy, Alex Perez, Mark's boy, in Manel Kape? I'd be very down for that.
Like it. Fun fight. I think also a tough fight for Perez. No, Manel Kape can crack.
I agree.
Let's move on. Final fight before we get into our lightning round was the opening fight on the main card of UFC 277 in the light heavyweight division, seeing Magomed Ankalaev defeating Anthony Lionheart-Smith by TKO with punches in the second round. The official time 3 minutes and 9 seconds. But this one, guys, left everybody in the MMA community was a little bit of a disappointing feeling because Anthony Smith apparently broke his foot or broke his ankle or his leg somewhere at some point. I don't know yet. I don't think we know yet. Not the performance we wanted to see from Lionheart. Mark, let me start with you. What did you make of the first round and then the fight heading into the second and the finish that happened?
Yeah, yet another one in the UFC lately where we get robbed of a great matchup on paper due to injury. Ortega and Yair, Aspinall and Blades, and now Smith and Ankalaev. We did get a round. It was a competitive first round. I don't think either man necessarily pushed it in the first round. I think they were kind of feeling each other out a bit. I have the sense that Smith probably planned to turn up the pace in the second round, just from the things he was saying pre-fight, and see how Ankalaev dealt with that. But instead, he breaks his ankle or leg. You've heard it They've been saying, some people have been saying ankle, some people have been saying leg, who knows, but breaks whatever it was in the waning seconds of round 1. Guts it out like the absolute G that he is, doesn't even consider, getting out of the fight, goes right to the stool, marches back out, comes out trying to pull guard because he can't do much else, and find a way to somehow win the fight while compromised, but against a guy like Ankalaev, it's very likely not going to work out, and it didn't. Ankalaev, to his credit, he stayed out of Smith's grasp. He stayed heavy on top, and he pounds him out. And it's a big W, but it's a big W over a guy who was very badly compromised. And, it's just another one where it feels like we didn't really get to find out what the result would have been.
Okay, Omar, what was your assessment heading into this fight? Or, excuse me, at the end of this fight?
Yeah, so I think the first thing we should do is confirm that Anthony Smith actually broke something. There was a lot of shit online, back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pena.
with people saying that, he didn't really get that injured, or it wasn't a real break, and, whatever the case is, he 100% broke his leg.
Yeah.
They're
I mean,
saying that
even
it
if
was
we don't have confirmation, if Anthony Smith says he broke his leg.
Well, so what
That's
happened
what I
is that
said.
Dana came out and said that they looked at him and they didn't see a break. And that Anthony Smith was sitting there like, this makes no sense. I am feeling it, and it is broken.
He feels it, yeah.
And that, I guess, then later another doctor looked at it and saw it. And so Dana actually, I forget when it was, came back out, and he was like, I want to clarify because I told you guys they didn't find a break, and they did find a break. So I want to tell you that, don't doubt Anthony Smith. He knew, and he does need surgery.
Yeah. And it's crazy, too.
Is it possible that he felt like a bad bone bruise and thought it was a break? Yeah, I guess. But, you got to take a guy like Anthony Smith at his word.
Yeah.
Also, fighters who break shit all the time, I probably trust them to know when shit is broken. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't know what my leg breaking. I mean, I fuck my leg up all the time. I in my head, I'm like, damn, is it broken? But, like, I don't really know. These guys, I feel like they probably know what a real broken bone feels like, So I definitely never doubted Smith for a minute about that. I was actually surprised how much shit he got for it. Like, if Anthony Smith doesn't make terrible decisions to go back into a fight he has no business going back out into on a consistent basis. The Glover fight, why did he continue that fight? The Jones fight, why? This fight, why? Like, all of these fights are crazy that he even goes back out there. But
because
then you're
he's
still
a G.
call him.
That's why.
But they still call him a pussy, a liar, or whatever.
I mean, people are idiots.
It doesn't make any sense to me, man. People are wild to me. But yeah, I would have, especially having him known in the stool what happened. My soft ass wants his corner to be like, okay, we're done. You know what I mean? Like that, the way he needed to go out in that round, I understand, and he does. I mean, he is a G for it. That's what he wants to do. But, like, they shouldn't have let him go out there like that. He was never going to win a fight on a broken leg like that.
I don't know if Anthony Smith lets them stop him. I really don't.
Yeah.
I feel like he'd be
so
like,
hard.
absolutely not, fuck that. I'm not gonna make it worse. I'm gonna go out there and pull guard. I'm gonna be on the ground. Like, let me go.
It's wild.
Yeah. He's like, if I eat some shots and I get finished, then I get finished.
Right.
Which is what happened.
And he was fine.
What happened.
Yeah.
From the shot,
And he was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Anthony Smith, he's going to have to deal with this broken leg situation. He might not be back for a little while, but let's talk about the guy. He's not undefeated, but he's the next best thing. He continues to have an outstanding record. He's now 18-1, that being Magomed Ankalaev. Mark, what is next for Ankalaev if you had the matchmaker's hat on?
So I am still on team immediate rematch for Yuri and Glover. So if that's what we do end up getting, then the fight to make is 100% Jan Blachowicz versus Magomed Ankalaev. Winner gets the winner of Yuri and Glover. If it is going to be Jan who ends up getting that title shot, then I guess we got to throw Glover in there with Ankalaev. But I hope that it is the former scenario.
Okay, Omar, any other opinion that you want to posit?
That will actually be a seconded opinion. I like that very much. I personally want the rematch for Yuri and Glover. That fight was a banger all the way around. Very interested to see if the second fight goes down the same way, differently, however it goes. But I think Ankalaev and Jan is the logical next step.
I also think Ankalaev and Jan is a super intriguing fight because you would think Jan's going to have the advantages on the feet, despite kind of how technical Ankalaev manages to be. You would think Ankalaev would have the advantage on the ground, but Jan's kind of surprising down there. Like, I'd be very interested to see who ended up looking superior in that fight.
Yeah.
Okay, boys, let's throw pretty much the rest of this card into our lightning round. Folks, if you're just joining us for the first time, our lightning round is where I challenge both Mark and Omar to give me their quickest takes for these fight results. Okay, here we go. In the welterweight division, Alex Moreno defeats Matthew Semmelsberger by unanimous decision. Mark, go first.
This one was a scrap. Moreno really busted up the eye of Semmelsberger, and Semmelsberger just couldn't find him in there as much as I thought he'd be able to through those first 10 minutes at least. He did pick it up some late, but I thought he got exposed a little bit in this fight. I got this one wrong. I thought Semmelsberger could pull it off, but Moreno, was just a bit of a level above. I don't think Semmelsberger maybe could get there. He does still feel like he has the potential. He's just not there yet. So Moreno keeps rolling.
Omar, go.
Moreno just is so fantastic when it comes to the fundamentals. There's nothing super flashy about him or anything like that, but the man sticks to the fundamentals and he does them really well, and it wins him fights. Gotta love it.
Okay, in the lightweight division, Drew Dober defeats Rafael Alves by knockout with a punch to the body in the third round. Official time, 1 minute, 30 seconds. Omar, take it.
Motherfucking Drew Dober. I love Drew Dober, man. I swear to God. The two big things I want to point out in this fight was Drew Dober spent the second round preparing this man's body to get dropped in the third. That man spent all of the second round throwing hooks, straights to Alves' body, and in the third round caught him nice and clean right in the middle and dropped him. It was beautiful. I fucking love watching Drew Dober. I really do.
Mark, what'd you take?
Wait, I thought you said you had two things you wanted to point out. That was only one thing.
Was it one thing? No, it was the second round. No, it was the second round, and then the other body shot in the third round.
Oh, okay.
It was the second round preparing him for the shot.
I loved this fight the whole way through. First off, Rafael Alves is an insane athlete. Like, he is so fast twitch. He had Drew Dober hitting air 100 times. He was whiffing on everything. And I also loved how when the doc comes in to check on Alves' eye, he basically throws the doctor out of the way. And then when the doctor is like, hang on, like, you can't just throw me out of the way, he hugs him, and he's like, no, we're done here, doc. And the doc is just so confused that he's like, yeah, all right, I guess we're done here. It was one of the best handlings of a doctor I've ever seen. But then to switch to Dober, like I said, he was hitting a lot of air. He was whiffing on a ton of headshots. But to his credit, we already know this, but the boy's got technique, and he's got intelligence when it comes to the striking. And as Omar said, he was like, all right, this man is wildly unhittable, so I'm just going to start investing in the body, and I'm going to make it add up. And it was a great adjustment, and obviously a beautiful finish at the end that finally put him down, and a big win for Drew Dober.
Okay, in the heavyweight division, we got the heavyweights, boys. Oh,
real quick. This is where we get bad at the lightning round. For those of you who watch that fight and try to think about how the hell do people catch people who do that crazy shit against the cage, you can't do that crazy shit to your abdomen. Hit him to the body. It works every time.
All right, in the heavyweight division, Hamdi Abdelwahab defeats Dontel Mays by split decision, earning 29-28 on two of the judges' scorecards. Mays gets his own 29-28. Mark, sticking with you, give us your one-hitter quitter.
I like this guy, man. He was only 5-0 coming in. They were saying his resume was kind of empty in terms of who he had fought. And I know Dontel Mays might not be the greatest test even still, but he looked really intriguing. Like, he's agile. He's light on his feet. He's got power in his hands. He was very willing to scrap in there. And he's got what looks like some great wrestling. So that was a nice debut for him. I'm interested to see him again for sure.
Omar, what's your take?
Yeah, I agree. He got busted up in that fight a little bit too, so we know he definitely has a little bit of a chin as well. Like Mark said, Mize is not necessarily the best gauge just to see where his ceiling is, but it's good job for now. Very intriguing fight. He's also, I think he's from Egypt, right?
Yeah, Egypt. Yeah.
From different side of the world, man. I mean, well, not significantly different, but definitely a different part of that region.
Not a country
so it'd be
we
very
see
interesting
very
to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be very interesting to see if he can do something, what comes from it. Because I don't know, UFC fight in Egypt sounds pretty damn dope. So I'm just saying.
That would be sick.
That would be cool.
We got to get to Africa, period, before we get to Egypt. We got to get a Usman, Izzy, Ngannou card in Africa somewhere.
You got to put it in Nigeria at that point, right? Aren't they all from Nigeria? Don't they all rep Nigeria?
No, Ngannou's not. Izzy and Usman.
Ngannou, I believe, is
Cameroon.
Ngannou's Cameroon.
Ngannou. Yeah, right.
Okay, in the lightweight division, Drakkar Klose defeats Rafa Garcia by unanimous decision, earning 2 out of 3 rounds on all judges' scorecards. Omar, take it.
Yeah, glad to see Drakkar Klose is still making, doing the damn thing in there. I wasn't sure how he was going to be after that whole thing with Jeremy Stevens and the neck and the nerves and the discs and all that stuff. He came back in his last fight. He looked good. But was that really going to, kind of continue to go? Especially, Drakkar Klose was already kind of climbing the rankings at that point in time, and then that kind of derailed him a little bit. So just kind of wanted to see if he was still able to keep that momentum, and it seems like he did. He looked great in there. Definitely won that unanimous decision, I thought, pretty handily. It was a great performance from Klose, and I'm glad to see he's back on track.
All right, Mark, take it.
Rounds 1 and 3 of this fight looked pretty much how I expected them to look. Klose won them with the pressure, more powerful shots. Garcia did do well to take round 2. He did make it a competitive fight, but I agree. The right man definitely got the W.
Okay, moving on. This is a fun fight with a rising welterweight. Michael Morales defeats Adam, I believe it's Fujit, by TKO with punches at 1 minute 9 seconds of round number 3. Mark, what is your quick take?
Fugit, to his credit, came out hard in round 1 on short notice and brought it. But as we shifted into round 2, early round 2, the momentum started to change. You could tell Morales was starting to figure him out, and then by round 3, he puts him away as expected with a beautiful combo. Moves to 2-0 in the UFC. I really like Morales. I think there's a lot of potential there.
Omar, what's your take?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Morales is of all the fighters we've been talking about here and talking about how not flashy a lot of these people are, Morales is quite the opposite. A lot of flying shit, a lot of things from a lot of different angles. Definitely tried to mix it up as much as he could in there. He did find, I feel like, some opposition definitely in the first round and trying to find his timing and his range. But the more as time went on, he was able to, kind of figure that out and kind of pick him apart from all different types of ranges. So it was interesting to see that stand-up fight progress the way that it did. I'm not convinced that his striking is clean enough right now to make it to the elite, but I mean, we're so far away from there, who the hell cares? So we'll see what happens.
Okay, boys, let's bring this one home. Nikolai Negumariano defeats I'm going to butcher this, Ihor Potieria, the second round by TKO. Omar, take it first.
Yeah, this was a wild little finish. Trying to remember exactly. Mark, why don't you take this one? I just saw this one, and now I'm trying to remember what it was.
I would like to take this moment to applaud the pace that Nikolai Negumariano put on this man. So, literal applause. The whole game plan was beautiful. He clinched him and took him down and grinded on him for all of round 1, sapped him of his energy,
Yes.
Comes out in round 2 and said, I am going to go full bore at this man for all 5 of these minutes until he physically cannot take it anymore. And that's exactly what happened. That pace was unreal. Negumariano is now 4-1 in the UFC, and that was absolutely his signature win to this point.
The crazy thing, and I'm a piece of shit for not even remembering that fight. The crazy thing about that fight, though, was after it was all over and it was all said and done, while Potieria is on the ground trying to gasp for breath, this dude just gets up like if he could go another 2-3 rounds. Which
he was
insane to me.
He said it
because you're right. He took the whole first round on the ground.
He said it talking to Rogan that this was the first. I actually forget what camp he said he was at. I'm blanking now, but he said it was the first time he was at this camp in America, and that his training, like that he like unlocked a whole new level of himself. So if that is true, I will be interested to see what comes.
His cardio shows for sure.
Yeah.
I would like to applaud the pace that we just put on this lightning round.
As we almost extended it right at the end as you were waiting to make that comment.
Thank you. Once you said that, I was like, I'm going to make that dad joke. Good shit, guys. Good shit. That was good. Let us find out now who rose and who fell in our very own rankings system, Mark's rankings system that we call the Priaulx Rankings, named after him. Mark, take it.
Yes, so nothing too huge. Only one riser and one faller that were noteworthy. There were a lot of the kind of win, like we just said about Negomed, but he's beating a debuting guy, so he doesn't really move. He maybe moves one spot. Nothing too huge. So the only two of real note were the riser being Sergei Pavlovich. He goes from number 10 to number 4 in my heavyweight rankings. Obviously, the win was not without controversy. I debated how I wanted to rank these guys. The UFC kept Blades above Pavlovich, despite the fact that Lewis knocked him out. I debated it since Blades is winning lately, but I kept him below Lewis, so my 4, 5, 6 is Pavlovich, Lewis, Blades in that order, so a little different than the UFC. Pavlovich goes up to my number 4 spot, and then the faller is Matt Semmelsberger. He goes from number 36 to number 41 in my welterweight rankings. Just thought he got a little exposed here by Alex Moreno, and we'll see how he resets. And that is it for the Priaulx Rankings this week.
Short one. My goodness. Okay. Well, that just lets us go right into the headlines that Omar has so curated for us for this week inside the MMA Sphere. Omar, what you got?
First on the list is the boy Conor McGregor in the news for some good news, at least, finally. Conor McGregor has been cast alongside Jake Gyllenhaal for his movie debut in the reboot of Roadhouse. So Jake Gyllenhaal will be, I'm assuming, the Patrick Swayze character. My guess is McGregor is going to play that dude from Roadhouse who was like the opposite of the fighting opposite anyway of Patrick Swayze, the guy that he basically fights at the very end and he rips his throat out. I'm pretty sure that's who McGregor's playing. So McGregor might lose his throat in that movie. So should be interesting. Second on top of that, Conor McGregor's not the only person who will be in the movie. Kamaru Usman will be in Black Panther 2 Wakanda Forever.
Oh, that's legit? That's real? I saw that. I thought that was like a funny headline in response to Conor's headline.
No, that came out before the Conor McGregor stuff. That's a real thing. He's not going to be playing anybody crazy. I think it's more of a cameo, just because of who he is, where he's from, and what he's done. I think they just want to use him as one of these like elite African American kind of images, or I guess African. Really, I don't know if he considers himself African American, but either way,
is he American? He is American, though, isn't he?
He was born in Africa, I believe, and then moved over here. So I don't know what he considers himself.
We can find this out.
Yeah, I don't know what he considers himself, but I will be conservative and I will just say African. Like we already talked about, Anthony Smith is currently looking at some surgery for that broken ankle of his, so we won't be seeing him for a minute. I think it's super interesting that every single one of these cards has ended with somebody needing to get one of these important fights is needing to get somebody with surgery. So Brian Ortega is probably going to need shoulder surgery. Smith is going to need this leg surgery here. Who just blew out their knee? Aspinall is going to need his knee surgery as well, more than likely. It's just a wild series of events here. Last on the list when it comes to news, Miesha Tate is not done with MMA. For those of you who are wondering, after her last performance, it wasn't the best. But she is not done with MMA, but it does sound like she is done with 125. She said that diet made her want to blow her brains out. I don't think she's going to be going through that again. And now that Juliana Pena is no longer the 135-pound title holder, she sees it as an opportunity for her to go to 135 and potentially make a run for that belt against Nunes. So we'll see what happens there. A couple of housekeeping things here. Aspen Ladd is out of the UFC San Diego card going down next weekend versus Sarah McMahon. She contracted COVID, and Sarah McMahon is currently looking for an opponent. So for all of you MMA fighters in the UFC roster listening to our podcast, please reach out to Sarah McMahon and see what you can do about that. Alexa Grasso is also out of her co-main event with Vivian Araujo.
Oh, I didn't see
visa
that.
issues.
Oh.
Yes, she's got some visa issues apparently, and that co-main event is off. It is not being currently rescheduled or filled in. It is just simply out of UFC San Diego, so that just won't be happening.
Man, I like that fight a lot. I didn't hear that.
Yeah. And then let's get into some fight announcements, and then we can get into this weekend's card. Hakeem Dawodu versus Juliana Rosa has been added to UFC 279 on September 10th. Along with that fight, Jake Collier versus Chris Barnett has also been added to the September 10th card. Melissa Gatto is out against her fight with Jillian Robertson. Maria Agapova is stepping in to fill in that slot for September 17th's UFC event. Askar Askarov, like we alluded to earlier, is fighting Brandon Royval. That fight has been added to the UFC's October 15th card. For the October 22nd card, UFC 280, Mohammed Mokaev versus Malcolm Gordon has been added, along with Mahmoud Muradov versus Cal Barallo. So I don't think that was any one of our lists for Cal, but
Kaio.
Is it Kaio?
Kaio.
Kaio Barallo. A few fights for UFC's October 29th event. Khalil Roundtree versus Dustin Jacoby has been added. Joseph Ugly Man. Yeah.
Oh, I did not see that. Holy fuck, one of them is going to die. Wow.
Joseph
That
Ugly
is a
Man
hell
Holmes
of a matchup.
versus Jun Young Park has been added to that event as well. Chase Hooper has got himself another fight against Steve Garcia. Andre Arlovsky has been added against Marcos Rogerio de Lima, which should be a really good fight.
Yeah, I like that.
And last on that card, Edson Barboza versus Ilya Topuria has been added.
Ooh.
That fight is bound to be a banger.
Rose is good, man, but I don't know.
I just want to say, as much as I love that Jacoby-Khalil Roundtree matchup, can Dustin Jacoby ever fight someone ranked, Mike? He just keeps fucking beating everyone who's just outside of the rankings. They won't let him fight a ranked fighter.
What if he loses to Roundtree?
Then he's certainly not fighting a ranked fighter.
Well, then what the fuck? He got to win some shit.
I mean,
Roundtree's
he keeps
not ranked.
winning, dude.
Damn.
After every time, I'm positive he's going to fight a ranked fighter. He never does.
Did he just lose?
No, dude, he's won 5 in a row
by knockout.
Oh, I'm thinking of the
He
other
fought
one.
2 weeks ago.
He
I'm thinking of
smoked
the other-
Dawoon
the-
Young in 1 minute.
There's two brothers, right? There's one that's in the heavyweight division, and there's one. The one
Dawkins,
that
are you
the one
thinking of?
brother. That's who I'm
Yeah, the
thinking of.
Dawkinses.
The Dawkins brothers. That's who I'm
The
thinking.
Dorcas is no. All right.
All right.
Are we good? Are we clear?
Two.
Are
We
clear
got
to
two
move on?
left. We got two left.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna go with this one first since it's realistically it's just not as important as the other, so I'm gonna save the important one for last. Tracy Cortez versus Amanda Hebos has been added to UFC's December 3rd event, which is a fantastic fight, I must add.
Yes.
But more importantly, really more importantly, Dustin motherfucking Diamond Poirier versus Michael Chandler for UFC's 281. November 12th, MSG. I mean, that's an amazing fight, an amazing venue. Probably going to at least be, I would assume, a co-main event. I mean, that's beauty right there. That's all I got for you. I end it right
I'm going to
there.
have to try to go to that.
As well, you should. You should have gone to the Long Island one and just drag your kids along.
Yeah. So I could watch Ortega's shoulder pop out? No, thanks.
Talk about a buzzkill. Talk about a buzzkill. Okay. Let's move on, guys, to our preview portion of the show. we have PFL and UFC action coming up this weekend. Let us start with a little taste of the PFL. We have, where am I here? The PFL playoffs starting this weekend with the lightweights and light heavyweights. Let's see. It's going down in New York City at the Hulu Theater of MSG. The beginning of the playoffs for PFL. And I think obviously the most high-profile fight is in the lightweight bracket with former UFC champion Anthony Showtime Pettis. Shout out, rematching against fellow UFC veteran Stevie Ray. Pettis lost in their first match not too long. It was only like a month ago or so, I want to say. I'm totally ballparking that.
No, I mean, you're not wrong.
I mean,
it's like either a month or two ago.
Yeah.
Pettis taps to a sort of modified body triangle submission in the second round. Mark, what do you got for us in terms of some PFL preview action?
Yeah, so obviously the two, I would say, higher profile fights here are the two lightweight semifinals, which we'll get to. But real quick, I would just feel weird if we didn't touch on the light heavyweight semifinals, since they are semifinals as well. So real quick, I'll give you those two. The first one is Rob Wilkinson against Dylan Monte. Wilkinson's a pretty big favorite. He's minus 310. Monte is plus 240. Wilkinson is a guy who has looked fantastic in the PFL. He's definitely become a name to watch. He's 15-2 overall. He had a brief stint in the UFC, which is where he picked up both of his losses. He lost to CR Bahadurzada, and then he lost to Izzy, and that's when they gave him his walking papers. Which may have been a little bit abrupt because he has looked really good since, and I think that he likely puts Monte away in this one and books his ticket to the finals. The other semifinal is Omari Akhmedov. It was supposed to be against Antonio Carlos Jr., who was probably the favorite to win this thing. He's out. I actually forget why he's out, if it was hurt or something else. Stepping in is Josh Silveira, who is actually the favorite. He's minus 200 despite stepping in. Akhmedov is plus 160. Lesser named guy in Silveira, but he's 9-0. He can finish fights everywhere. You look at his record. He's got knockouts. He's got subs. He's a dangerous guy. I'm torn on this one because I don't know him quite as well, but I've never really been super sold on Omari Akhmedov, even back in his UFC run. I just find him really inconsistent performance to performance, so maybe Silveira takes this one, so we'll see. But those are the two light heavyweight semifinals, and now we may move into the lightweight ones. You want me to just keep rolling right into it, or?
Yeah, do it.
All right, so the lesser marquee lightweight semifinal is Olivier Aubin-Mercier against Alex Martinez. OAM is the favorite here. He's minus 250. Martinez is plus 200. I think Martinez has overachieved a bit. I think he's had some decisions go his way in his time in the PFL that maybe shouldn't have, including his last one over Clay Collard. He's not bad, but I don't think he's on OAM's level. I think OAM is the guy in the PFL lightweight division right now. He's another guy who's looked great since leaving the UFC. He has not lost since. I think he's more well-rounded. I think he's better anywhere this fight's going to go, and I expect him to win a clear decision in this one. Omar, I don't know if you have anything to say about OAM, or if you want to just go to the main event.
I was a big fan of his even when he was in the UFC. I thought his last few fights, I don't actually remember if I agreed with all of those decisions that he lost to, but he's not necessarily always been a fighter that goes for the finish, but I've always found him to be very effective when it comes to his grappling and kind of his ability to control the fight. Again, he's not the most exciting, but he is super, super effective when he's doing his thing. So I enjoy him. He does remind me of GSP. I don't want to jump on that bandwagon because they tried to do that shit years ago where he was like touted as the next GSP. I'm not going to go that far.
He was the Canadian gangster, remember?
Jesus, yeah. The main thing though is his style is very reminiscent of GSP as far as the control on the ground and being able to take fight to the ground as effectively as GSP did and things like that.
Yeah, he's a weird one. His aggression seems to change like fight by fight. And in the last fight, I agree with you. He really did not go for it at all. But I'm hoping that was because he was just kind of trying to secure the playoff spot. And I'm hoping that now that we're in the playoffs, maybe we'll see a little bit more. But we shall see. And then as Mike alluded to, on the other end is the immediate rematch between Anthony Pettis and Stevie Ray. Ray won by submission in the second round. In the last one, as Mike said, it was kind of that twister position. I guess Pettis' rib was kind of popping, and he tapped. Second time we've seen him tap in that kind of a situation. The odds are very tight here. Pettis is even money. He's plus 100. Ray is now the favorite. He's minus 120 after having won the last fight. Personally, I feel exactly the same about this fight as I did when we picked it the first time. And that feeling is that Anthony Pettis is better and that Anthony Pettis should win. My take was really not changed by that result. I thought Pettis looked good in that last fight until the moment that things went south. It was a bit of a freak ending. Only thing I don't know is I don't know if he's 100% healthy, but I will assume and hope that he is. And despite the fact that I watched Stevie Ray just beat him, I don't really know how Stevie Ray beats him. It doesn't seem to make sense, but I think the only way for Ray to win, other than some other freak occurrence like that, is to grind him out on the mat. And I just don't think Ray is that kind of a wrestler. So barring something weird again, I think Showtime's the better striker. I think he's the better scrambler. I think he's the more dangerous sub threat. And I think he gets it done here. Maybe doesn't find the finish, but I think at least a UD for Anthony Pettis.
Like it.
You want to know how much MMA math doesn't fucking make sense? Stevie Ray beat Anthony Pettis. Stevie Ray also lost to Cajun Johnson.
Yeah.
Does that mean Cajun Johnson in MMA math beat Anthony Pettis? Because, shit.
Yes.
Shit.
Yeah, it's weird.
Okay. Let us now pivot to UFC Fight Night, Santos versus Hill. It's going down this Saturday night in Las Vegas at the UFC Apex. It's a fun little Fight Night card, guys. Before we spotlight about, I think, 4 or 5 fights on the main card, any other fights that you guys want to just shout out real quick, fights and or fighters?
Omar, you can take it first.
Yeah,
I just talked enough.
So Brian Battle's on this card. Brian Battle is the Ultimate Fighter winner. I always forget the numbers. 25, whatever it is. But Brian Battle is one of the more recent Ultimate Fighter winners, and he's on the fight card against Takashi Sato. That's actually a really good fight. I'm pretty interested to see what Brian can bring to the table here. I personally have high expectations for Brian Battle. He's, again, not one of these guys that looks very amazing. He's not the flashiest kid, but he's very tough and he is effective. So I'm very interested to see how that turns out. And then Terrence McKinney's also back on this card as well.
Oh, sorry. I just want to say something about Battle. I don't know if I love this drop to 170 pounds. Like, I feel like his movement was kind of a key for him at 185, and I don't know if he's going to have that same advantage against, like, smaller, quicker guys. So, I don't know. It seems a little bit of a random move to me, but maybe we'll be wrong. Or I'll be wrong.
I feel like this happens to everybody. Everybody who goes to tough almost always goes down like another weight class when they actually get into the UFC.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's a thing where they want Brian, because I will say the one thing that Brian seemed to be missing in his last fight was the strength. He seemed to be kind of out-muscled by the guys that he was fighting. And I'm wondering if dropping down to 170, preserving his muscle, makes him the stronger guy, but that seems to be everybody's MO. So who knows if it really works out for him or not. But it is interesting. Terrence McKinney is on this card as well. He's fighting Eric Gonzalez. McKinney's a fantastic prospect. He fucked up in his last fight, getting a little too crazy, a little too early, and then ended up paying for it. But the reality is that's something that I think can be checked and adjusted. And Terrence McKinney has the skills to be a very, very dangerous fighter. So a consistently dangerous fighter, I should add. So I'm very interested to see what he brings to the table.
Yeah, that one is some friendly matchmaking, if I've ever seen it. I think that might be a one-round dusting. Actually, I'll mention 2 others quick. A pretty solid fight on this card is the opening fight, which is Mayra Bueno Silva against Stephanie Egger. I believe they're both ranked, or at least right on the edge of the rankings. Egger's really strong, which has carried her in a bunch of matchups so far, like impressively strong, but Silva is strong at this weight class too. Eggers had some nasty subs, but Silva's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so it's an interesting fight. I'll be curious to see who comes out of that one. And then the other one I'll mention, I love Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. Always thought there was untapped potential in him. He was always a little small at light heavyweight. I like his drop. He is now a middleweight. He's going to be fighting Sam Alvey. I don't know how Sam Alvey's still in the UFC. And I think that this may be it, because I think that Oleksiejczuk may take him out pretty quickly here, but he's somebody to watch for sure.
Okay. Guys, let's start in the heavyweight division on the main card. Augusto Sakai taking on Sergei Spivac. These are two big boys. A lot of skill there in the ring. So Augusto Sakai, obviously the Brazilian, he's 31 years old. He's 15-4 as a pro with one draw. He is coming off 3 losses, however. He's a guy who came into the UFC with quite a bit of hype as a proficient striker, but he's dropped 3 straight to Alistair Overeem, Jairzinho Rosenstrike, and most recently Tai Tuivasa last December. Sergei Spivac, coming off of a big TKO victory over Greg Hardy. He is from Moldova. He's known as the Polar Bear, 14-3 as a pro, so their records are pretty evenly matched, and he is the younger man at 27 years of age. Omar, let me start with you this time. What is your assessment? Give me your pick of Sakai versus Spivac.
I think Spivac is overall a better fighter, frankly, and I think he's just a more well-rounded fighter as well. There is definitely MMA math involved in this as well, having Tai Tuivasa on both of their records, one having beat Tai Tuivasa at a very few years earlier than the other, lost to Tai Tuivasa. But I think the reality is their styles will make this fight very interesting, but I think Spivac will be able to control the fight wherever it goes. I would even say he would probably be able to dictate where the fight goes throughout a majority of it as well. I think Spivac is going to be pretty dominant in this fight. I'm going to go with Spivac by first round TKO.
Mark.
So Sakai is a pretty big dog here, bigger than I expected. He's plus 205. Spivac is minus 265. This is kind of an odd pick for me because I like Spivac's game more than I like Sakai's. I would pick Spivac to beat more guys, I think, than I'd pick Sakai to beat. But matchup-wise, I think the two of them in there with each other, I kind of feel like the matchup favors Sakai. I don't think Spivac can take him down or at least hold him down enough to work like a top game or find a sub. I think the way to generally beat Sakai is with power, and Spivac doesn't really have that on the feet. And as timid as Sakai has looked lately, and he has looked bad lately, I think he's going to have a pretty clear striking advantage over Spivac. So, again, I feel weird because I really don't like Sakai as much as I like Spivac, but I think I'm going to go Sakai here in a close fight behind his striking to win a decision.
I agree. I think I'm looking for Augusto Sakai to sort of bounce back in this fight and show the MMA world that he still possesses some really nice striking skills, and he's going to get it done over the Moldovan Spivac. I'm going to say he's going to win by TKO, let's say second round. I feel like I always pick second round.
It's the safest one. If you're wrong, you're only wrong by 1 round.
Right. All right, so as we've alluded to, this fight night features the tough finale for both the women's flyweight and the heavyweights, right? The heavyweights.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not women's heavyweights, men's heavyweights.
Correct. It might be women's heavyweight maybe someday, maybe in 2050.
Yeah.
But women's flyweight, the finale is between Brogan, how do you say Brogan?
Yep.
Brogan Walker.
Brogan.
Yep.
And is it Walker Sanchez or just Walker?
I didn't even know about
It's
the
Walker
Sanchez.
Sanchez. It's Walker Sanchez now.
Oh,
Now.
okay.
Okay, she got married, I guess.
Yeah.
I've seen both. Taking on Juliana the Killer Miller. I'm going to let one of you guys cue this up because I don't watch stuff, unfortunately. I don't follow along with it.
We both
gotta
watched
say,
it,
this
but I
was a
feel
good
like Omar is the tough man, so let's let him give it up.
It was a good season. Listen, there are some fucking seasons that's tough that I hate watching. This wasn't really one of them. This was a good season. Yeah, it was a good season of tough though. And to be honest, I was actually a lot more impressed with the women than I was with the men.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The men, the men were relatively straightforward. I maybe it was because I had more expectations from Mohammed Usman. I guess I expected him to just kind of be this world beater, but he's not really, doesn't really seem to be that. Definitely won his fights, and a lot of them got pretty close. But the women, bro, had arguably a few fight of the nights throughout that season. So it was great to watch. Brogan is a badass. Brogan is definitely a badass. Her striking is really, I think, where she excels. She's very good at keeping distance. I think her real vulnerability is the grappling. She doesn't really seem to respond well to getting up close in sort of a clinch situation, even on the ground. While she kind of knows what she's doing, it's not her bread and butter. You see that she's not as comfortable in those positions like she is when she's standing and striking. JoJo, on the other hand, Juliana Miller, very comfortable in all places. She also brings a certain pressure to a fight that is very similar to a lot of the high-level men that we find in the game as well. JoJo is one of those people who's very unassuming when you watch her. You definitely wouldn't think that she is somebody who's going to go in there and scrap the way that she does, but she is very, very proficient and definitely a gamer on the ground. I wouldn't be surprised if she ends up taking Brogan to the ground and seemingly finds her way into some kind of armbar or choke. I think this fight's going to be a scrap. It's really difficult for me to tell you who's going to go where and how this fight is going to work out. Based on the performances I've seen, I think I would probably pick Juliana JoJo Miller to win by decision, a split decision even at that.
Juju. You always want to call her
Juju. I keep calling her JoJo. Juju. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Juju for this one. I think she's gonna be able to squeak out a decision win. I think it's gonna be hard fought though.
Mark, favorite pick?
I am as torn as you, and so are the bookies. Brogan Walker is even money, plus 100. Juju is the slight favorite, minus 120. So
wow.
It is tight. I'm super torn. I do think that Brogan seems to be the better fighter, like better, more skills at this point in time. She's more technical. I think she's more well-rounded. But there is a dog in Juliana Miller and just a true fighter in there. Yes, she's kind of raw, but her grappling is absolutely not raw. And when you already start with the natural fighter that she is, it's easy to make big leaps, and that's exactly what it seems like she did on Tough. I don't think there were very high expectations for her on Tough, and obviously here she is in the final. My concern is just that maybe Juju is the type of girl who's going to shine in the tough environment, like in those close quarters, no contact. You have to tough it out. You don't really get to prepare for your opponent. It's just kind of more about like gutting it out at times. And that now that she's facing a skilled opponent who's going to have a whole camp to study her, to prepare for her, to look for holes, that maybe she's not going to look quite as effective as she did on the show. So I'm so torn that I'm looking for something to grasp at, and that's really the only feeling I have that's swinging me one way or another. So as much as I ended up rooting for Juju on Tough, I'm going to say that's the case, and that Brogan wins a close decision to become the Tough champ.
It should be noted, either one of these women winning would be well-deserved. Both of these women have put on nasty fights throughout this entire series.
Yeah, cool. Okay, the other one, the other tough finale fight is going down in the heavyweight division between Mohammed the Motor Usman, brother of Kamaru Usman, taking on Zach Pauga. I believe his nickname is the Ripper. Omar, why don't you cue this one up?
So Zach Pauga is fundamentally a striker. He definitely likes to go in there and look for his heavy shots. Likes to keep distance when he can. Guys have definitely tried to close the distance on him and try to make him grapple. It seems like he's very proficient in being able to get out of those situations and get distance again and keep going with his game plan. Mohammed Usman fights, I think, the way you would expect a wrestler to fight. Very heavy on his grappling. His hands aren't necessarily anything to write home about. But he is, when he gets you to the ground, he is very heavy. And I think this is kind of a curse that I think he's going to have to live with his little brother being who he is. But, with that kind of credential that Kamaru has, one would expect that Mohammed would have similar skill sets as well as the efficiency in those skill sets. And I just don't find him as overwhelming of a wrestler as I think you would assume that he would be. I think he's good. I think he's a smart fighter. I think he knows what he needs to do to win a fight. But I don't find his skills to be particularly amazing, if we're being honest. I do find Zach's skills to be a bit more refined, although there's still definitely room for improvement then. I got to be honest. I think I'm going to go with Zach for this one, and I think he knocks him out. I'm going to go with Zach by knockout, TKO, round 3.
Zach Pauga by TKO. Mark, what's your take?
So for what it's worth, Mo Usman is actually Kamaru's younger brother. Kamaru is older by 2 years.
He's a giant.
Oh, yeah, that must be it. He's just so much bigger, I assume.
It's a size thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mo is the dog here, pretty significantly. He's plus 200. Zach Pauga is minus 250 as the favorite. And I think that's accurate. Nothing that we saw from Mo on Tough dictates to me that he should win this fight. He is very raw. He's somewhat sloppy. I don't think he really knows what his game is yet. Whereas Zach Pauga showed some good signs. He looks like he actually has potential there. And I agree with Omar. I think that he's going to put Mo Usman out by the end of round 2. I'm going to say Pauga by TKO. But the only thing I will say is that I have a bit of this vibe, and these instances happen in MMA sometimes, where a guy comes out and suddenly looks nothing like the guy you've watched prior. And you're like, what the fuck just happened? Like, how did this guy become the guy that I'm watching right now? And just the fact that he's like Kamaru's brother and they focused so much on him on Tough, I have a little bit of that vibe where I'm like, is Mo Usman going to come out and just look so much better in a way that doesn't even make sense? But I just didn't see anything that makes me believe it, so I'm going to go with Pauga to finish him.
I don't think that that's the case, and the only reason I say that is because he's had the opportunity to do that already. He's had the resources.
Oh, I know. He's had the PFL already. Like,
But like even with his brother now, he trains with Trevor Whitman. You know what I mean? Like he has it. He has the ability. It's not like he's some fucking scrub that's coming up that has been training out of a garage that now is all of a sudden going to some real place.
That's why I said in a way that doesn't make sense, because it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
But no, I'm going with Pauga. I'm going with Pauga. I don't see it from Usman.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay,
I wish he was better
than
what he showed, because with the name and everything, it'd be amazing to see this. One
cool. brother
running heavyweight, one brother running welterweight, and all this other stuff. But like, I don't think Usman might have a problem getting into the UFC, let alone staying in the UFC and becoming champion. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Oh, he ain't gonna be champion.
All right.
But not now, anyway. Not from what we've seen.
All right, let's go to the co-main event of this UFC Fight Night. Going down in the welterweight division, Kamaru Usman's division right now. This fight is between Vicente Luque and Geoff, Hands of Steel, Neal. Okay, Vicente Luque, the Brazilian, of course, the silent assassin. He's 21-8 as a pro with 1 draw. 30 years old, 5 feet 11 inches tall. Of his 21 professional wins, 11 TKOs or knockouts, and 8 more submissions. Only 2 decisions. This guy finishes fights. If he's winning, he's finishing. Geoff Neal, very similar. 14-4 as a pro. By the way, he's 31 years old, from Texas. Of his 14 professional victories, 10 of them come by way of knockout, TKO, or submission. Most recently, he's coming off of a win against Santiago Ponzinibbio. Oh, and Vicente Luque is coming off of that loss against Belal Muhammad back in April. Mark, let me throw it over to you first this time. Give us your take of this pretty high-profile welterweight matchup between Vicente Luque and Geoff Neal.
So Luque's the favorite here. He's minus 185. Geoff Neal is plus 150. I'm having a little bit of a hard time with this one because on the face of it, and as soon as I saw it get made and everything, I was like, all right, Vicente Luque is going to take that fight. But then you start breaking it down and you look at the good fights Geoff Neal has had, and there's absolutely a way that he could take this fight. Like, Luque starts slow sometimes. It takes him a little bit to get going. If Geoff Neal could jump out and take round one, which he tends to do, granted, then he ends up coasting later in fights at times, and like we saw his coaches had to be like, Geoff, like, you need to keep going. Like against Pons, they had to get his head back into it. So Geoff Neal is always a hard guy for me to read. Like, obviously he's super talented. He beat Belal Muhammad. Granted, it was some years back, but a little MMA math there. Mm-hmm. He is good everywhere. He's got power, but I can't not pick Luque. I feel like Luque has proven more. I feel like he's proven to be more dangerous. He is an absolute dog, and as tough as Geoff Neal is, sometimes I just feel like he doesn't want it as much as Vicente Luque does. Luque's got the jits advantage if it hits the mat. We've seen how quick he can finish things. He showed it against Michael Chiesa. Neal likes to work at his range, and Luque is really good at controlling range and at cutting his own entry angles in a way that disrupts you. So I think he can kind of nullify the range work that Geoff Neal wants to do. I think he's just a cleaner striker. I honestly will be disappointed in Vicente Luque if he does not get this win, because I really think he should. I know I'm not saying the most technical things on earth right now, but okay. I'm going with Vicente Luque by UD in this one.
Omar, give us technical and non-technical things.
So, I love Vicente Luque in this fight, to be honest. I think that if, as talented as Geoff Neal is, I think if he tries to play a rangy game with Luque, if you're going kick for kick, I would go with Luque all day. If we're going punch for punch, I'm going Luque all day. I think his technique is just crisper. I think his ability to get the strikes where they need to be and put himself out of position to not get hit in return, I think is more on Luque's side than it is Geoff's. Geoff has a real fucking problem not moving his head out of the way. I don't know why, but he does. And Vicente Luque is not the guy you don't want to move out of the way of punches and kicks for. So if it goes to the ground, I think I give that to Luque all day, whether he's on top or he's on bottom. I think he finds a way. But I also think his striking is just going to be superior as well. I don't think this is a decision. I think Geoff Neal gets put out. I think Vicente Luque knocks him out. Second round, KO.
Wow.
I was going to get crazier, but I'll stay there.
Okay. All right, let's go on. Actually, I'm going to.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'm going to go. I think we. Yeah, for sure. I think we're unanimous, guys. I'm going to go with Vicente Luque because I'm a Vicente Luque guy. To be quite candid with you, I've never really been a Geoff Neal guy.
Yeah, same.
I don't know why.
Me either.
I'm sorry. Sorry to Geoff Neal. Luque is so talented to me, and he's such a warrior. I'm going to go with Luque by TKO in round number 3.
I like it.
Okay.
I like it.
Let's go to the main event now. We have UFC Fight Night, Santos versus Hill, going down in the light heavyweight division, high-profile fight. We have Thiago Marreta Santos, which if you don't know means hammer. Hence the giant Thor's hammer tattoo on his torso, not even on his chest, on his body. It's a big ass hammer. Thiago Santos taking on Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill. Although I like his newer kind of unofficial nickname of Main Event Mall.
Yeah, I like it too.
I do like that.
Yeah. So we got Thiago Santos out of the red corner from Brazil, of course, the 38-year-old. 22-10 as a pro. This guy has fought a who's who in the lightweight division. He has also fought at middleweight, I believe. Has he fought at welterweight too?
Thiago? No, I don't think so.
Or no?
Unless it was like pre-UFC, but
right?
not in the UFC.
Just middleweight.
Out of his 22 wins, he has 15 wins by knockout, including one other submission victory. He's most recently coming off of a loss against Magomed Ankalaev. He is, won for his last 5 fights, though. So looking to get back into the win column again over Jamal Hill. Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill from Grand Rapids, Michigan, my neck of the woods here in West Michigan. Coming into Saturday night with back-to-back wins over Johnny Walker and Jimmy Crute. Sweet Dreams is the younger fighter at only 31 years old, and also with a much smaller record with 10 wins, 1 loss, and 1 no contest. A pretty good finish rate with 6 knockout victories, no subs to his name, so a disadvantage there on the mat. Omar, let me throw it over to you to first give us an assessment and ultimately your pick for this very high-profile light heavyweight matchup between Jamal Hill and Thiago Santos.
I'm a big Jamal Hill fan. I've been a Jamal Hill fan since, I think, his first fight in the UFC after watching him, which was the Darko Stosic fight. I think after the Ovince Prue fight, after his, the TKO wins and he started getting on that route, I was picking him from then on. The Paul Craig fight was the one kind of misstep that he had. I always keep thinking that that's a submission win because of how that fight actually ended, but it is a TKO win from elbows and punches. But Jamal Hill's a beast, man. He's an absolute animal. I think his potential in the UFC right now, especially in that division, I think is actually very, very high. And I think this is a perfect fight to kind of see where he's at. And to be fair, it's also a perfect fight to see where Thiago Santos is at. Thiago Santos has had quite a rough few fights lately, and the worst part about these losses is that he looks like a real shell of himself. He is not fighting the way he used to. He's fighting very scared, very timid. I don't even know if the legs are even that much of a problem as much anymore, so much as he's just not. He's fighting with a lot of backward movement and not a lot of forward movement the way we're used to. And so there's just a lot of caginess with the way he approaches these fights now. And it doesn't make for an entertaining fight. And he's not winning these fights as a result of this change either. So not really sure what's happening there, but he doesn't look great. What I will say is Jamal Hill doesn't seem like the type of fighter who will allow that to happen in a fight. He's very smart in these exchanges. So I expect Jamal Hill to be doing a lot of cutting of the cage off, a lot of strikes. And I eventually expect him to put down Thiago Santos. I'm going to go with Jamal Hill. TKO or KO round 2.
Mark.
Jamal Hill's big favorite. He's minus 300. Thiago Santos is plus 240. I am sold on Jamal Hill, man. I've said before, I hopped on the bandwagon a bit late. I didn't see it at first. It was the Jimmy Crute fight where I was like, oh shit, I missed this. And now we had the Johnny Walker one since then, and I could not be more on this bandwagon. He will have a 2-inch height and 3-inch reach advantage in this fight. If we ever had the old Santos who kicks, I think this could absolutely be a lot more interesting, but we just don't see it from him anymore. And I think that Jamal Hill's going to come out and walk him down. But what makes Hill so dangerous is that he will walk you down and keep you at range at the same time, where the end of his strikes are hitting you, but you're not able to crowd him. Like he manages that range so well. And that's key against Santos because you crowd Santos and he starts firing. Like, he goes into his buzzsaw mode. So I think that's a key for Hill that he will keep that range as he walks Santos down. I don't think either that this version of Santos, who has as low of an output as he does, is someone who can keep Jamal Hill off him. I just don't think there's enough coming back to deter Hill. And I think that Hill picks his shots so stupidly well and is so precise with where he is landing them that I think he finds another kill shot here, and I agree with Omar. I'm going to say round 2 knockout.
I will say welcome to the big time, Jamal Hill. He's going to get this victory by knockout or TKO, and with a win over a guy like a Thiago Santos, who's one of the bigger names in the light heavyweight division, Jamal Hill is really lining himself up for an even bigger fight later this year. I'm going to say Jamal Hill is going to win by knockout or TKO. I'm going to say, or more specifically, knockout. I'm going to go round 1, guys.
Wow.
Try this round 2 safe bullshit, okay?
So
Yeah,
the only reason I didn't pick round 1, and I had round 1 at the very beginning, the only reason I didn't pick round 1 is because the way that Santos has been fighting, I expect the most energy to be spent in the first round trying to keep Jamal Hill off of him. And I expect there to be a lot of mobility and stuff, and I just don't think there's going to be enough time for him to get caught in the first round. I think by the time the second round starts, things will slow down quite a bit, and he won't be able to get away from Jamal Hill as easily. Literally,
Mark, what was your Hill?
Also,
what was your Hill pick?
Round 2 knockout.
You said Hill. Round 2, okay.
Also,
you guys both said round 2 knockout.
yeah. No one is finishing Thiago Santos on this run. I mean, I shouldn't say finishing. We saw Glover choke him out, but with strikes, I'm saying. Like, yeah, he's losing, but other than the Glover sub, it's decisions. So
yeah,
it's hard to just say, oh, Thiago Santos is going to get dusted, because no one does that to him. But I think at least as the fight goes on, I do think it's going to happen.
Okay.
And
Yeah, I mean, I also think that Santos is the older guy. He's got a ton of miles on him, and I think it's Jamal's time.
I agree.
dude, imagine if Jamal Hill is just tickling the top 5 by this time next week.
Dude, yeah.
Crazy,
I
man.
mean, that's a real thing. That's a real possibility.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
He's still got to get past Santos, and even though Santos is older, he's not an easy test here.
Even on his worst day, Santos is still presents tons of problems. I just wish he would capitalize on things a little bit more.
All right, boys, that does it for our preview this week. We got PFL and UFC action coming up this Friday, Saturday nights. Don't miss any of it, because we're going to be back here next week breaking down the results. And guys, let's finish with a little bit of trivia. In fact, this week, I don't have trivia for you guys.
Oh.
I made something a little different.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just, I don't know. Popped into my head.
I thought you just realized you had nothing and you were going to say goodbye.
And I don't have trivia, and we're signing off. No. I don't know. This popped in my head, to be honest with you. I thought it would just kind of be fun.
All right.
Like
I'm
it.
down.
Interested?
I have created 8 co-ed duos, and I want you to name and pick who you think is the best one.
If they were to fight like 2-on-2?
I guess, or
Okay.
just like which would be the best one.
Okay.
I started out making them sort of like by camp, and then I was like, that'll never sustain. Then kind of era, and then it just kind of became like country of origin or like region, like global region.
Okay, so you were all over the place, is what you're telling us.
I'm all over the fucking map. All right. John Jones and Holly Holm. George St. Pierre and Ronda Rousey.
Heavenly Father.
Khabib and Valentina. Connor.
I feel like I need to be
and
writing
Joanna.
these down. It's hard to.
Yeah, you should write them down.
I gotta.
If you're not doing it right now, I'll go back to the beginning.
Okay, wait. So it was.
And while these guys are queuing up their either pen and pencil or a note on their computers, anybody who's watching or listening, especially if you're watching this on YouTube right now, please drop a comment below and let us know who you think would be the best co-ed fighter duo. Okay.
All right. So who was after?
From the top.
Okay, go from the top.
From the top. John Jones, Holly Holm. They're both Team Jackson Wink. GSP and Ronda, kind of a similar era in my brain. And then we go to Khabib and Valentina, the Russian kind of Team Russia over there. Even though Valentina is from Kyrgyzstan, she's kind of Russian.
And kind of Peru too, but that's fine.
kind of Peruvian. You're right, but nobody knows that, and nobody thinks it first that.
Yeah.
Then I got Connor and Joanna because they kind of always had like an affinity for each other and like a respect for each other.
That's the one. That's the one right there. Give you that one.
Connor and JJ? All right,
That's
hold on.
the fucking one right there.
We have Anderson and Amanda.
Oh.
Number 6 is Kamaru and Thug Rose. Number 7, this one Mark might appreciate. Again, this is going by pretty much by region now, sort of. Sakuraba and Weili Zhang.
Wow.
And the last one was just a fun one. I was like, I got to find a way to get these two in here. Fedor and Cyborg.
The Bellator duo.
Yeah, I guess so.
So what is the question? Is it who goes best together or who's best at MMA? Like what? I don't know what you're trying to.
I don't really know. This is a poorly formulated thing. I was just like, who's the best duo? Like you could just say like, for combined star power, if a lot of people say that John Jones is simply the greatest, then you would pick John Jones and Holly Holm.
All right, so it's about greatest. It's about career greatness.
Greatness. Or I would also say like these people in there. So I would say prime Connor and prime Joanna.
Primes. Okay.
No, not right now.
No, I'm saying so it's not overall career. It's primes. Primes makes this a lot more. There could be a lot more answers.
I will say that, yes. When I formulated the teams, I'm thinking like, okay, you got prime Connor, prime Joanna,
Okay.
prime GSP, prime Ronda. So you're talking Connor who fought Eddie. And you're talking Joanna who was on her like 5-fight title streak.
Boy.
Khabib was obviously undefeated. Valentina's a beast right now. GSP in his prime. So picked the GSP in his prime, thinking the GSP that beat up BJ Penn maybe was like really at his peak, I'd say. And obviously Ronda's peak was like during her infamous title run.
This is impossible.
Is it too many choices?
It's just hard.
The men, some of the men are outweighing a lot of the women, so it's just the balance is a little off. Because like Kamaru and Thug Rose, I don't think are on the same level. You know,
I've eliminated 3 right out of the gate.
Well, it's kind of the point, though.
Kamaru,
like,
Sakuraba, and Fedor.
Kamaru, Sakuraba, and Bones because of Holly.
Well, that's the thing is that like I had to balance them out because if it was like John Jones and Amanda Nunes, it'd be like, okay, that's kind of a wrap.
No, yeah. Honestly,
It's interesting. I thought it'd just be like a fun like. My heart
leans towards Anderson and Amanda.
Yeah, I was afraid I made that one over. I was afraid I made that duo overpowered.
I've also eliminated Khabib and Valentina.
Wow. How could you just eliminate them with the wave of a hand?
Oh. Yeah, my answer is the same as Omar's. I was trying so hard to analyze this and make it, like, see for myself if I could choose someone else, but I can't. It's Anderson and Amanda. That's my answer.
What if I made it, okay, since that's sort of like Team Brazil unofficially, what if I made it Aldo and Nunes? Because I feel like prime Anderson is like, holy shit. He by himself is kind of in the GOAT conversation, and Amanda's in the GOAT conversation.
Yeah. I put a lot of weight behind Fedor and Cyborg. I think that's a good team. But
thank you.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, I
like if this was an 8 tag team tournament, who would win in their primes? Everybody's in their prime.
Well, weight would be
It's
involved.
so hard. Like, I'm also thinking about who would be the most exciting duo, and that has to be Connor and Joanna.
Connor and JJ.
Oh yeah,
my
for
god.
sure.
Connor and JJ would sell all of the pay-per-views, all of the press conferences would be fucking gold. Like all of it would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, if this was actually fighting each other, there's only 3 teams that it could be, but it's because of weight. which is
Well, sure.
Anderson, Amanda, Fedor, Cyborg, and Bones, Holly. The other 5 are too small. At least in my opinion.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess in their primes, I'd say Anderson, Amanda. It's too overpowered.
I like Anderson
as a team.
Yeah, interesting.
All right, if you're listening or watching this on YouTube, guys, I want you to let us know who you would pick for your favorite co-ed duo, and let us know down in the comments. That being said,
Also,
boys,
if you have another type of credential, like if you have best in show or some shit, some other idea that works just as well, add that to the comment as well. We'd love to.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. All right, boys, getting out of here a little earlier than we have in past weeks, which feels a little nice.
Sexy.
It's not
a little
1 a.m.
nice. That's right, not 1 a.m. And we did not have, knock on wood, some technical difficulties with this show. All right, we got PFL, we have UFC coming up this weekend. Enjoy the fights, folks, and we will see you next week. Any parting shots, guys?
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
That's all we got.
Good.
Tampa Muay Thai,
Peace.
baby. Let's go. Peace.